Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Smol's Family Reactions and a movie review. Movie review of James Bond, No Time to Die. My lovely wife and I had the opportunity last night to go see the movie in the theater, which was a wonderful experience. So good to be back. And we've seen a few movies in the theater now, but just so good to be back in the theater and watching a movie that has finally made its way to the theaters. Loved it. Highly recommend you go see it on the big screen. So, James Bond, No Time to Die, directed by Cary Joji Fukunaga, starring Daniel Craig in his last performance as James Bond. This is the fifth James Bond movie for Daniel Craig, the 25th overall James Bond movie, dating all the way back to Sean Connery and Dr. No in the early 60s. 25 James Bond movies. I'm going to say this. This is a different kind of James Bond movie. At least it was for me. You can feel it from the beginning. The way the movie started was very intense, which they all are, but different. Again, this is going to be spoiler-free at the beginning, and maybe at the end I'll talk about a few spoilers. But at the beginning, it was intense, almost scary movie kind of intense, and then it jumps to the typical James Bond opening sequence, a lot of which we have seen in the trailers with the car chase and the motorcycle going up the stairs over the wall. What an incredible scene. Seen it many times in the trailers, but to actually see it on the big screen, it was so enjoyable, very well done. Loved it. This movie comes in at 2 hours and 43 minutes. However, I will say it does not feel that long. It keeps your attention. At no point during this movie was I bored. The action and the dialogue and all of that was perfectly spread out. I don't say perfectly. That's maybe a little too complimentary, but it was very well spread out, and the movie is well paced. But this is a different type of James Bond movie. The weight that this movie carries, because of the fact that unlike other James Bonds, the Daniel Craig James Bonds have a continuous thread, a continuous storyline that run through them. Each movie can be its standalone thing, but characters reappearing, continuing their role from film to film. Madeline, who is Inspector, is also back in this one. And that's where this movie starts. James Bond has left active service, and he is with Madeline. And really, it seems to be enjoying retirement. He's living a quiet life. Like, there's a scene early on where Madeline asks him to drive a little bit faster, and he's like, "No, let's take our time. We have all the time in the world." And he's enjoying not being active. But then, of course, some things happen and the action starts, and Felix from the CIA, Felix Leiter, played by Jeffrey Wright. Love Jeffrey Wright. Been in lots of things. Most recently, certainly enjoyed his performance as the Watcher from What If. I'll put our reaction to the first episode right here. If you have not seen that, go ahead and check it out. But Jeffrey Wright as Felix Leiter recruits his help. And through the course of events that you see in the movie, he's not in active service with MI6. He is not 007. In fact, there's a lot of the rumors and people have speculated there is actually a new 007 played by Lashana Lynch. And she is 007 in this, Nomi. Her name is Nomi, and she is 007 in this movie. And I thought it was very well done, very believable. I don't think there was anything crammed down our throats or anything weird. It was just, this is where the story went. So Felix recruits James Bond to help hunt down a mysterious villain who has a very dangerous, and I say like it's legit. Like the threat in this movie is legit. It's scary. So Felix hires his help to hunt down this villain and his dangerous new technology, and that's really where the movie is going. But there are lots of twists. There's turns. There's surprises. Again, even though it's 2 hours, 40 minutes, at no point during this movie was I bored. It was very well paced, very believable, and the threat, again, in this movie, you feel the weight of this threat, especially as it carries on further and further. The threat that's presented in this movie becomes more and more real. The acting overall in this movie was spectacular. Of course, everybody in this movie is a very accomplished actor, actress. Ana de Armas, who's not in the movie a whole lot, but her character in this movie certainly carried some weight, and left me going, yeah, I need more of that character. Daniel Craig brought it as he always does, and I'm going to go ahead and take this opportunity to say Daniel Craig is my personal favorite James Bond, and I'll go ahead and, even though it's a subjective opinion, I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there that Daniel Craig is the best on-screen James Bond that we have seen. Not taking anything away from Sean Connery, who is my second favorite. He set the tone. He's iconic. You cannot replace Sean Connery. And I think that the people like Roger Moore, Pierce Brosnan, that have tried to copy, maybe copy is too strong a word, but to replicate the charming, debonair aspect of James Bond, they have missed the agent side of James Bond, the 007 license to kill side of James Bond that Sean Connery certainly was able to accomplish. But Daniel Craig, his James Bond is more, in my opinion, more real, more rugged, more of the lifestyle of an agent that you would expect to see on the big screen. He's so much more well-rounded as a character that he's my favorite James Bond. I think he's rejuvenated the character. I think the box office reflects that. If you look at the numbers that the Daniel Craig James Bond movies have produced, they don't lie. Daniel Craig is the man. I have to see it again and think about it for a while. I don't know if I'm going to say that this is my favorite Daniel Craig James Bond, but it certainly is up there. Casino Royale and Skyfall are such great movies, but this one's right there with them. And as time goes on, who knows where I'm going to put this, but he certainly brought it with his final performance as James Bond, and it was satisfying, it was emotional. Again, like I said, this had a different kind of feel to it in a good way. It was fresh. It took risks, but it was still James Bond. I mean, you never felt as if it wasn't a James Bond movie. It was always a James Bond movie, and Easter eggs and all that stuff are in there. And you can certainly go check out some breakdown videos to see what those are. Certainly felt like James Bond, but at the same time, it's a different kind of James Bond movie than at least what I'm used to seeing. And I really enjoyed that aspect of this movie. So that's my spoiler free. There might have been a couple little tiny spoilers in there, but nothing major. But that's my spoiler-free, at least just initial review, thoughts of James Bond, No Time to Die. Very enjoyable movie. I will say, the title itself, No Time to Die, is the mentality of the movie theaters that they have at this point in time. It's no time for the theaters to die. Lots of big movies coming out this fall and winter. You've got Eternals, you've got Dune, you've got Spider-Man. Of course, Ghostbusters, which I'm looking forward to, is coming out next month. And lots of big movies in the future. Support your movie theaters. Let's keep getting these blockbuster movies in the theater where they belong. So No Time to Die for the theaters. And this movie did not disappoint. Definitely go see it in the theater. All right, so that's a spoiler-free. I'm just take 2 minutes to talk about some very big things that happened in this movie. Spoiler alert. So if you have not seen it, don't want to hear this, now's the time to check out. Come back later. But spoilers, here we go. 2 big things happened in this movie that were shocking, to me at least. Number one, James Bond has a daughter, and man, was she cute. She stole the show when she was on the screen. When that little girl was present on the screen, she just had you glued, and her bluntness with some of the characters was hilarious, but also it was hilarious but real, and very enjoyable. And you knew early on when she first showed up, you're like, that's James Bond's daughter. And of course, they tried to play it off. Madeline says, no, she's not your daughter, but you knew it was, and of course, then they revealed shortly after that, it's James Bond's daughter. And man, was she cute. And my second point, which is the biggest thing in the movie, James Bond died. He died. And man, it was sad. First of all, I love Daniel Craig as James Bond. I knew this was going to be his final movie. Of course, in the back of your mind, you'd seen some speculation, some rumors early on, maybe, but I didn't believe any of that. It's James Bond. He's not going to die. They're going to continue James, even with a new actor, they're going to continue with James Bond. I just did not see that coming till 15 minutes to go in the movie. You knew when he got that nano DNA tech on him that was targeted for Madeline and his daughter that he wasn't going to keep going because he can't even touch him at this point. He's a threat to his family. And he had to keep the silos open for the rockets to come in to destroy this factory that's making all this DNA, nano DNA tech. And the writing right there was on the wall. You're like, man, is James Bond going to die? And part of me was like, nah, he's going to find a way to get out of it. They'll find some cure, even though Q had said numerous times, like when the whole thing went down with Blofeld, when Blofeld died at the hands of, because James Bond had the nanotech on him, he didn't know. From Madeline, targeted for Blofeld. And Q said, there's no way to get rid of this. Once you have it on you, it's there permanently. So when he got it on him targeted for Madeline and his daughter, you're like, oh man, that's horrible. But you think, maybe there's a way that they can cure this. He's going to survive. But when those rockets hit, my man did not survive. That was a quick and epic and crazy conclusion to the Daniel Craig era James Bond. Left me sad, but at the same time still satisfied because it was just so well done. I prefer that he would have walked off with Madeline and his daughter with a happy ending. That's what I prefer. But I don't dislike the ending. Like, the ending didn't distract or take away from the rest of the movie. It still fit, and in a way, I'm okay with it. I'm struggling with it, but I'm still okay with it because it was so well done. But even now, sitting here, I'm like, James Bond died in this movie. Are you kidding me? Man, Daniel Craig, it's going to be tough to replace Daniel Craig. And to that end, there's no end credit scene as typical of James Bond, but the typical words we see were there at the end of the movie. James Bond will return. Not 007 will return. James Bond will return. Who is that going to be? Lashana Lynch, 007, as she took on those numbers briefly in this movie. Tom Hardy, somebody else. And the question is James Bond a person or is it a title at this point? I think it's still a person. And there's going to be a James Bond character who is 007. But that remains to be seen. And I'm not even going to speculate too much about it. I just want to enjoy what I just saw and kind of just live in the afterglow of the Daniel Craig era James Bond, which has come to a sad conclusion for me. I'm really sad that that Daniel Craig is no longer James Bond. But this movie's fantastic. Again, go see it in the theater if you haven't. Of course, now you know the ending if you sat around and got the spoilers. But hey, go see it a second time if you saw it a first time. Support your movie theaters. Very important to do that right now. Thank you for checking out my review of James Bond, No Time to Die. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, enjoyed my review. Of course, subscribe. We have lots of reaction videos out, lots more heading your way. And leave some comments. What did you think about James Bond, No Time to Die? What do you think about Daniel Craig as James Bond as a whole now that his run has concluded? Who's going to be James Bond next? Leave it all in the comments. Let me know what you think. But again, thank you for checking out this video, and we will see you next time.